So after a session that was brilliantly moderated by Dr. Rajiv and extremely well deliberated, I think this is a very related theme. These are two of the key enablers to drive us towards a $50 billion economy for medical devices. The PLI scheme and the recently launched PRIP scheme. So we'll start with the first question to you, Sunil Khurana ji. How do you see PLI being a driver to take us to the $50 billion goal by 2030?
Clearly, I see a linkage between PLI and PRIC. The reason is that innovation is must. You have to create, and that creation comes toward the manufacturing, and then you take it to the market. So we were just without that creation part, we were jumping here. And since government feels that the creation part, R&D part, has a very important role to play to trigger the business, trigger the manufacturing, and own your own technologies. So this is going to be a great area. This is going to boost PLI, and I am a very big fan of PLI. The way PLI came, when I can tell you that we have set up a new factory at Bangalore now, close to 98,000 square feet carpet area. We would have not gone so aggressive, or probably whole thing would have got delayed. But at least PLI has brought that aggression, put some timelines, and this has helped. And this particular area where innovation and academia, we will work all of them toward the product development and design is going to be a great enabler for PLI.
I think a very valid comment. You're saying that it is spurring Indian manufacturers to invest in new facilities and invest in growth of the sector. So I think it's a very warm optimism. And now coming to you, Dr. Rajiv, there are 4 sectors and there's a total scheme outlay of about 3,500 crores. Do you think the scheme outlay and also the inclusion of sectors is adequate, or there could have been more that could have been done?
Thanks, Gauravji. This is a very valid question. In fact, when we were the initial, discussions with the government on the PLI scheme, there was an array of sectors that we wanted to look at. I think why the government chose these 4 sectors were somewhat like a low-hanging fruit for the government also. The reason is because you don't want to experiment in something that may prove to be some at one point of time 2 steps back. But I feel now that the PLI scheme, and after the resounding success of the mobile and the automobile industry, they underestimated the Indian prowess, the domestic industry prowess that we had. We could have at least another 4 or 5 more segments that could have been added to the PLI scheme. In fact, before the PLI 2 and the PLI 3 that was launched subsequently, there were industry deliberations on which other sectors could be actually added to this thing. But all in all, if you look at it, it's a very promising scheme. As Sunilji said, we all got pretty excited that yes, now there is something which is time bound. Now there is something which is getting the kind of traction that is required and is now going to be somehow helping the industry to take forward some new innovation also, which will be recognized within the country too. So I think that was the novel thought that made us pretty gung-ho. SMT was initially for the PLI 1 itself, the first company technically to be awarded during the PLI 1 itself in 2020. We acquired a company at that point of time. We were also in a bit of a turmoil in terms of our IPO. So a couple of things were going on, and then this scheme came in. It was exciting. It was something that we could have proven a track record on, and we could have taken that track record further. The technologies that we also looked into under that segment where SMT fit the bill into were technically novel technologies. You talk about TAVI, you talk about occluders, which we are coming now, is technically a novel technology which has enabled us to also bring the costs down to an affordable level. So I think all in all, it was a good scheme. Yes, the sectors, especially consumable sectors like in even imaging and all, need to be really added into it in a very cohesive manner, because the government sometimes looks at certain short gains, but we would not look at a short gain. We would want to look at it something which binds the industry to take it at a larger vision.
Yeah,
I
sure.
just add, see, this triggers me what Dr. Rajiv said. I just give a food of thought to Government of India on a PLI. In my view, any scheme if you launch, you should also see the number of or percentage of beneficiaries. If percentage of beneficiaries are not more than 75%, that scheme is not good. And today, the kind of threshold has been kept for the scheme one. Only companies which have a single product, where that threshold probably can be met, or companies who are manufacturing here, multinationals, and take those products outside, and then that becomes, they may get it. Otherwise, normal routine companies getting that PLI benefit is not possible. Now, this scheme, the way they have gone into a multiple, sectorial method, this is probably a thought coming from the PLI angle. But PLI again needs to be seen in that line, that at least 80% must get qualified, and then only it makes it,
Very
more
valid
meaningful.
point. In fact, that was the next point I was going to touch upon with Dr. Ravi. So, Dr. Ravi, according to Deloitte's report, the average size of an Indian manufacturer is about $5 million. And a lot of participants also of this scheme that are domestic manufacturers fall in that kind of annual turnover. Do you think the incremental revenue of 60 crores is too ambitious? Do you think this can be met? Also, the data suggests that 20 out of 22 participants are not eligible for the qualifying year itself. What are your views on that? What could have been done differently?
Thank you, Gauravji. It's very valid question with regards to the PLI and the threshold. As Sunil sir also mentioned about the threshold value of 60 crore or the cumulative growth. So obviously, yes, I would say the scheme is very prominent, but the cumulative growth net sales of 60 crore is too ambitious, particularly for the Indian manufacturers. So there are some points I would like to highlight here. First point, Sunilji has also mentioned about the time frame, which is very crucial at this stage. If we can see to set up a greenfield projects along with the equipments, machineries, R&D facilities, takes a lot of times. Apart from that, there are the regulatory system which takes a lot of time for the companies. We talk a lot about the ease of doing business, interministerial collaboration for the single window clearance and all. So this is all time taking, right? And the company which misses the first year net sales of threshold 60 CR, they are not eligible for the rest of the year, right? So that's too hard for the Indian manufacturers. That's one point. Second point, we see that India is hosting more than 750 to 800 manufacturers, either in the small and micro categories. Micro we define as less than 5 CR turnover, small we can say less than 50 CR turnover. So this cumulative growth for them, it's like they are out of their purview, we can say. The scheme largely skewed towards the larger multinational manufacturers. On the recommendation
While
front,
on that
and the
point,
second point,
you
which
make
you
a
have
very
shared.
important point, which Khuranaji also touched upon, that this scheme could benefit more multinational companies than indigenous manufacturer. So, what is your view on that?
So that's what I'm saying. You have mentioned that 21, not 22, 21 beneficiaries of the scheme. So I would say 21 approved applicants, not the beneficiaries, because out of 21 only 4 applicants are there which have applied for the incentives, I would say, and out of 4, 3 are the multinational companies, right? So that's what my point is. It's the scheme is largely skewed towards the multinational companies. Now here I would have 2 points if to give to the government of India for the remained applicants. Either the threshold should start from the date of production. The government should consider the time frame as the date of production, and the threshold should come down. Or the second option is the companies which have not got any incentives or benefit in the first year, and they will not be able to get in the rest of the years. For them, I think it's the second option. The base year should be considered at the first year of the incentive should be considered as 23-24 rather than the 22-23, so that they can at least they can get the time to achieve this 60 crore and so on for the rest of the year. Thank you.
I think a very good point. Now coming back to you, Dr. Rajiv, in its original avatar, the scheme outlay was the same, but the incremental revenue kept was 120 crores when the industry protested and they brought the threshold down. Also, there was a net worth criteria that was given. So your net worth had to be at least 20% of your turnover. And then there was a new facility criteria. So they did away with the net worth criteria and added the new facility criteria. Your thoughts on that?
My view is that there was a lot of initial information which came for the PLI was that you have to have a greenfield plant. Now, I have a factory here in Palghat, and we have enough space. We could have done in the same place, but it was told that it has to be greenfield. With the greenfield thought, we took a different location, and then nearly 2 years, COVID has hurt a lot. I mean, when you are trying to get a piece of land or a shed which you want to convert, we saw a lot of reluctance at that time, and people were very reluctant. So that delayed the whole thing. So that was a one major step. As Ravi said, that there should be whenever you start, maybe down the line 1 year, 2 year, whenever you start, you should start the PLI activity that year, and still keeping a 60 crore and 120 crore for a small companies. Think of a MSME. If they have a 10 products and they are doing a 200 crore with 20 crore each product, and if your limit on each product goes up by 60 crore, that company will become 1500 crore company day one. So, you have to see a reasonable growth. You probably can say that you have to grow by 25% on your current scale. But you cannot put an absolute number. That number is probably a derivative of some other thoughts. And, nobody can just grow. They can't double it. Like my X-ray production that year was about 40 crores. If I have to add 60 crore on top of it, it is not possible. So, that's where I say any scheme when we launch, we have to have a more stakeholders meeting. We must ensure that what we are making makes sense and it is more practical. And initially, the intermediary company who was trying to talk to us, they said, don't worry, this is just a beginning and you just move ahead. And I'm sure later there'll be a lot of normalization, there'll be a lot of corrections done as schemes becomes practical. Nothing of that happened.
Yeah, I think you bring a very valid point, and one of the things that the scheme envisages is that the beneficiary of the PLI scheme in the 5th year would have incremental revenue of 300 crores. And Deloitte report says that there are less than 2% of Indian manufacturers that even have that size today.
Correct.
So the government thinks that the beneficiaries of this scheme in the next 5 years have a magic wand that they will be able to wave and will be able to get to their original size or greater in the next 5 years only because of the PLI scheme. Do you think it's too ambitious, Dr. Rajiv? Question to you.
No, I think as Ravi rightly right now said that we possibly SMT became the only beneficiary right now who's taken the second incentive also out of it. It's not the case that when we thought of it at that point of time, I think we seized this opportunity because SMT was ready. We had this facility which was then just dug up as a Bhumi Puja at Hyderabad. We wanted to add a line item in Surat where we wanted to come up with the Tavi as a product because our talks were already on with the vascular. So I think it was an opportune time that SMT nailed it. That's what I could say. Good timing for us. But subsequently, and I've been a part of the similar deliberations, not only on behalf of IMED, but FICCI also and the PSD Chambers of Commerce, where we actually hammered the sense that let's not put a threshold to it. Let's add on to a couple of other sectors, which could be the win-win sectors that the government looks into. And also the magic wand that you talked about. Where would the companies come out with that 300 crore outlay itself? Khuranaji was just speaking to me right now and telling me that if I would have started getting the incentives of each of my line segments that he has, he would be a 5,000 crore company by this day today itself. We fortunately had a one line item and one product which took us forward in that way. But that was sheer coincidence. I would say it's sheer coincidence, and you hit the nail. But the larger question is, where is the substance now going towards? Lot of companies who had applied, and we're only 21, 23 of this. Look at it. One company, a domestic one, is only which is getting that incentive. Courtesy some, windfall gain. But how are we going to compensate to the others? Is this like a failure, or are we now going to look at track 2, a 2.0? Like we say, medical devices 1, medical devices 2.0. Now is the time for like 2030 vision, or MD2 3.0 vision.
Also, you rightly said, one of the goals of the PLI scheme was to negate the disability factor of 10 to 12%
Yes.
that an Indian manufacturer has. And if 21 out of 22 applicants are not able to avail that benefit, then the whole purpose of PLI is largely defeated. Dr. Ravi, if there was one recommendation that you'd have for the PLI scheme in its 2.0 or 3.0 avatar, what would that be?
So that's what I have said is, the scheme should start getting the benefits to the smaller manufacturers with the date of production. They get the incentive year calculation. The threshold should be minimum according to the Indian manufacturers, and the remaining manufacturers which are not getting the benefit of this PLI and PRIP scheme, they should be getting some tax incentives and the R&D benefits.
Good point. Valid point.
See,
Kurana sir, your
my-
one silver bullet to make
my
PLI
view
fit.
is that with 60 crore and all, we should just forget. We should just say that whatever you achieve, because we all want to do more. It is
Exactly.
not that we don't want to do more. Whatever each company with their best efforts, whatever extra they do, they should get qualification on that itself. That's one. But I want to also praise here PLI. Though PLI we are not getting benefit, and PLI later got diluted, that you can set up your in existing place also you can do that. If that was done, we probably would have saved a lot of time. But leave that. With PLI, at least we got a lot of drive to set up a new factory. I'm very happy, and that is going to help us. And thanks to PLI scheme, whether we qualify. In fact, the sad part is that you get a message from oh, your functioning has still not started, and we are going to forfeit the earnest money or security money given. I mean, that is also not in a good taste at all.
I think also to a related point, we are looking at a $50 billion medtech market by 2030, not only in these 4 segments. So why only have these 4 segments? If a manufacturer achieves, say, 50% revenue growth, regardless of what he produces in medical device, should qualify. Your thoughts on that?
So in fact, actually, I was adding to Sunil sir's views. In fact, Department of Pharma, the secretary herself has said that we have more than 600, 700 CR still with us under the scheme, and we are not able to disperse the same because of this criteria and the eligibility of the companies.
So, Dr. Rajiv, your silver bullet to make PLI more effective. You've been part of 3 large bodies, IMED, PhD, CCI, and FICCI. So, what is that one silver bullet?
No, I think there is no silver bullet that can actually take it now to a next level. We need to have adjournments in this particular scheme. What Sunilji said, let them decide the threshold rather than the government giving back 17,000 plus crores back to the exchequer. Let's give the companies the opportunity. So number 1, let's not get into that threshold business ultima. Number 2, increase the number of sectors within it. The moment we do that, the $50 billion industry dream that we and the government is thinking of will be achievable, tangible also. Right now, it is like only on books.
Very well said. Now, changing gears a little bit to one of the most ambitious schemes that have been launched to drive innovation in the medtech sector, the PRIP scheme. I think the outlay of 5,000 crores itself is very ambitious. Creating almost a $600 million outlay for promoting innovation in the pharma and medtech sector is a very welcome move. So, at very high level, 1 or 2 points, very high level thoughts on what do you think about PRIP, and then I have a series of questions, starting with you, Dr. Rajan.
So, I was in the meeting for this PRIP scheme day before yesterday, and unfortunately, again, the medical device industry becomes the dwarfed brother of the pharmaceutical industry. The entire layout, whether it's on generics, whether it's on orphan disease, orphan drugs, API, pharmaceuticals, is largely centered. And I'm telling you, out of that 5,000 CR, 500 CR would be something that the medical device industry will receive.
I would be very surprised if that also happens.
Yeah, I would also. I mean, I'm just making a wild guess. And you end at the end of the day, what are you looking at? You're looking at establishing COEs with institutions of government repute, and they've largely, zeroed in on NIPERs. I mean, there's technically no one beyond us here, but honestly, NIPERs have also not geared up to that particular level itself. It was only in 2021 that we all were a part of the entire NIPER medical devices pedagogy team. We created that curriculum, which has still not got a UGC nod, and they still think that this particular bridge course that NIPER Guwahati and NIPER Hyderabad and NIPER Ahmedabad, only the three NIPERs have, is going to be enough to have a war roth for the medical device industry. I mean, they must be joking about it. So,
Absolutely. I mean, we work with one of the NIPERs out of these three. I won't name which,
yeah,
but such is the constraint there that they asked us to recruit scientists for our own project because they have just so many criteria to fill a position. They said, you appoint scientists on your behalf and deploy them here. So those centers becoming centers of excellence is a wishful thinking.
I would say the government should come up with a center of excellence to increase manpower for it. We don't
Absolutely.
require those scientists. I mean, how would me and you get benefited out of it, or how would he come into it? Maybe you could.
So Sunil sir, your 30,000 feet views on PRIP.
First of all, let's accept that pharma is ahead of us, much more matured, and they probably don't need this support as much medical devices need. So out of 600, I feel that 300 should be strictly, 3,000 should be, 2,500 should be strictly allocated for devices and balance there. That's the first step in my view. Second is that there has to be a debate that what all will get subsidized here, what all will get allocated. My proposal was that today I have a 65 R&D guys. I want to add maybe a same number and a high quality people, because if you get a high quality people, your acceleration of product will become better. So let's have a criteria that I take another 50 IIT guys, good brain, who can come and do a good job and bring products better. Today it is very difficult on a ROI basis to invest into that level of manpower, that quality manpower. Let's get subsidy on that area. That if you are 50% of the total R&D wages are covered, that should also be a criteria, because you will feel that I can double the number and speed up the things. So there are many things we can debate it out, but this is top of mind, comes to my
I think
mind.
a brilliant suggestion to include R&D costs also as part of PRIP. Dr. Ravi, your 30,000 feet view on this.
So I echo with Dr. Chibbar and Sunil sir. So as you have mentioned, only 2% of the medtech industries are more than 250 CR and all, and out of 5,000 CR layout of the scheme, 1100 CR is for the category B1, where they have mentioned the specific turnover criteria of 1000 CR for the pharma. We get a lot of pharma companies with 1000 CR, but for medtech they have set up the criteria as 250 CR, right? So that's only 2% of the companies we will get. So out of 5,000, that's 1100 CR is out of the purview. Second, if we'll see for category B2 also, right? So they haven't, that's a good part that they haven't mentioned about the threshold criteria, and I hope the MSMEs and the small industry will get the benefit. Apart from the R&D, we need to get on some collaboration opportunities in upskilling the manpower of the medtech industry for the biomedical engineers and all. We have seen they have defined the priority areas, target segments. That are 6 priority areas they have mentioned, and if you can see, there is only one part for the medical devices. Pharma is always ahead of this. So we need to dwell upon dwell more upon adding the medical device segments into these priority areas. That's my point.
So you raise a very important point, carrying forward from what Khurana sir said, that I think manpower or R&D cost should also be considered as part of your
Very important.
outlay. Now, another very important question on the PRIP scheme, that industry spends, pharma industry and medical device industry spends in India nearly 15,000 crores a year on R&D. Do you think the outlay of 5,000 crores is adequate or not?
See, what they're looking at is to kickstart something like the PLI scheme kickstarted something. It's kickstarted a creation of positive thinking towards the entire medical device sector. It's just taking it forward. Companies like SMT, companies like yours or VPL, we spend almost like SMT, the 2021-22 expenditure on R&D was 18.23%.
Percentage of sales?
Pardon?
As percentage of sales?
Yeah, as percentage of sales. So if you look at it, and the earlier years when we were looking at the talent trial and a couple of others where we came up with our Supraflex screws, it went up to 23%. So you can imagine there are companies who are already, we all companies are already doing that part. But the trigger needs to be envisioned somewhere or the other. I was at the EAM, the Economic Advisory Council of the Prime Minister's meeting, where they categorically called a couple of PLI companies, and on our faces they said, "Abhi aapka PLI mein naam aa gaya." Honestly, this is the word which one of their top advisors, who's almost every day on TV, said, "Abhi aapka naam PLI mein aa gaya." Do not think that even a subsidiary company of yours will now get a PLI beneficiary. So, I mean, this is being recorded, and I understand this criticality that I'm talking about. But honestly, it's a trigger. But they need to realize that let's not try to demotivate those who are already doing beyond their capacities. The guys who are doing 20, 18%, maybe you are also equally doing 12, 15 odd percent. Sunilji, number of items that you have, look at the R&D at the end of the day. So I think the viability and the practical approach somewhere is missing. And then you've segmented it into 6 areas, 5,000 CR into 6 areas. Just orphan drugs and orphan, clinicians, clinical approaches. The 10,000 crores would be a smaller outlay altogether for that also. You talk about thalassemia, leukemia, you talk about those diseases. It's not the kind of, cup of tea that 5,000 crores would be able to do for diseases.
Yes, on a related question, when you talk about the medical devices, broadly it is software driven.
Yes.
Software as a medical device and software in a medical device. So, Dr. Ravi, your thoughts on only including 2 segments, which currently we neither have the talent nor the adequate research infrastructure for. We do not have enough AI ML scientists in India doing medical work. And we face this every day as a company because we want to transition to next level of imaging, which involves a lot of machine learning. But that talent is not available in the country. So identifying that as a priority area and incentivizing that as the only sector in medical devices, is that right, or that could have been thought through better?
So that needs a thought, because as you have rightly mentioned, we are lacking in the talent for the AI and ML software side as a medical devices. Telemedicine is just a basic start, if we can say, in the digital healthcare segment rather than the medical devices. The NIPERS, they have allocated 700 CR. That is for the infrastructure setup and the research projects. That projects come to on a patent side, not on the commercialization side, I think. So there needs to be more focus on the talent pool and the upskilling of the manpower on these segments where the AI and ML are the need of the hour for the upcoming medical devices segments. So that should be in a priority areas. Apart from that, in the medical devices, there are a lot of other imaging segments and all, which still needs to be a broader categorization to be included in the priority segment.
Sunil sir, your thoughts on the entire benefit being paid back as either a royalty or as equity? Your thoughts on that? Is that a valid thought process?
I would say forget about both areas. I still say make it more defined, and that is where direct subsidy of the manpower engaged in the R&D. That itself is a big help, because you, from your overall ROI, sometimes are not able to support that, and you can take a quality manpower. Because if you take a normal engineering college students, they take a lot of time to come up to the speed. But if you want to really hire real talent, a lot of guys, if that is paid there, I would always like that. Because that is something which is very clear and it can be validated, and you can also see project triggers. So instead royalty, instead this area, I would rather focus more on something which is there, which is going to help us more.
Any closing thoughts from you, Dr. Rajiv, on PRIP, and then we'll close the session.
No, I think the scheme is very invigorating. It's not that the scheme is not invigorating, but the allocation and the outlay, which has not come out in the public as of now, needs to really be thought well. And from a medical device perspective, we should wholeheartedly accept this, but also react to it so that the lion's share also comes to us. We were just discussing the same thing. Divided as 50-50. You got pharma and generics in one place, you got the medical devices in the other place. Rather than only the paltry 500, sum that I mentioned, and you said, will that also be a possibility? May not be the case.
Thank you very much. We are at the close of this session. Very stimulating discussions. Thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv, Sunil Khurana sir, and Dr. Ravi.